We are talking about function inverses, and we want to explore inverses of functions, and we want to find and verify inverse of functions. So for this example, we want to consider the functions below, find the inverse, and determine whether the inverse is a function. I can determine right now whether whether the functions that are given, if their inverse is a function. And because this is a cube here, I know that I'm eventually going to have to take the cube root of that, and that is going to give me a cube root function, and that is a function. So in this case, I know that f inverse will be a function. Over here, we see that we have the square, and I know that I'm going to have to take the square root. And in that case, when we take the square root and we get plus or minus, the domain's not restricted, I know that f inverse is not a function. But we still want to go back and we want to calculate. We can still calculate the inverse for them. And we remember our steps. First part, we want to replace f of x with y. So here we get y equals, and we can write down the rest of it, 2x cubed minus 6 divided by 9. And then the next step is we want to interchange the x and the y. So we get x on the left side, y on the right side. And now the last step is we just want to solve to get y by itself. So first thing, we want to multiply the right side by 9. And so we have to multiply the left side by 9. Our 9's cancel. And we're left with 9x equals 2y cubed minus 6. Then we can add 6 to both sides. Nine x plus 6 is equal to 2y cubed. Then we can divide both sides by 2. Nine x plus 6 divided by 2 is equal to y cubed. And we can take the cube root of both sides. So from there, we know that the inverse function of x is equal to the cube root of 9x plus 6 divided by 2. And we know that that is going to be a function. Then we can take a look at our other example. And we've already decided that it's not a function, but we can still find the inverse. So consider the function below, find the inverse, and determine whether it's a function. We already said that. First step, replace f of x with y. So y is equal to x plus 4 squared. Next step, we want to interchange the x and the y. So we have x over here, and we have y over here. Oh, I forgot the plus 1 here, so I just want to add that plus 1 in there. And now the last step is just solve to get y by itself. So I'm going to add or subtract 1. So x minus 1 equals y plus 4 quantity squared. To get rid of that, we take the square root. And whenever we take the square root, that leaves us with plus or minus. And then we can subtract 4. And then we get negative 4 plus or minus the square root of x minus 1 is equal to y. And in that case, that's our inverse. So just write it down here. F inverse of x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus the square root of x minus 1. That is the inverse, even though that is not a function.